Late autumn possesses a curious gift, where it lays the world bare, when the last leaf still clings to its branch, while the garden, already surrendered to the cold, has all but forgotten the existence of summer. Silence begins to speak more eloquently than words themselves. It is in such moments that one's attention drifts away from the noise of the world and, almost without intention, settles upon something far quieter, the scarcely audible conversation one carries on with oneself. And then, at last, things become perceptible that the clamour of ordinary life has always concealed. The human mind, if one observes it with sufficient patience, appears to be governed by a singular necessity, cannot endure its own imperfections without first inventing an explanation for them. Seated comfortably beside the window, wrapped in a blanket, we watch the apple blossoms surrender one by one to the wind. We instinctively search for a pattern that might reconcile the scene before our eyes with the invisible architecture of our inner life. The ancient Hebrew sages approached this same question with the grandeur that so often distinguished their thought, and they did not conceive Kabbalah as a collection of spells or occult curiosities, but as a vast and remarkably sophisticated system of psychological orientation. Imagine an absolute, resonant emptiness, Ain. From it emerges Ain Soph, the infinite, where, if one were to borrow the language of ordinary life for a fleeting moment, God found himself unbearably alone. And so for anything other than himself to exist, he first had to withdraw, to contract, to draw a slow, profound breath, making room for you and me. This is where the story truly begins, with the extraordinary idea that creation was born from the Absolute's voluntary retreat into shadow. Who conceived such a vision? Men who struggled, with remarkable courage, to answer a question that refuses to disappear. If the Creator is wholly good, why does the world bear so many fractures? The consequence of this philosophy was astonishing. Instead of blaming blind fate for every misfortune, it placed two things into human hands: a mirror and a map. Kabbalah's reply was deceptively simple. The world is not broken, it is merely waiting for you to gather it together once again. To make the ascent a little less bewildering, the sages imagined what came to be known as the Tree of Life, the Sephiroth. Had Marcel Proust been persuaded to describe these 10 divine emanations, he might well have mistaken them for the successive stages in the education of a perfectly cultivated gentleman. Let us climb this staircase together, without becoming unbearably academic. Kether, the crown. Pure will, the first, almost imperceptible flash of awakening. That elusive instant before your hand reaches for a Madeleine, while your soul has already sensed the catastrophe of memory quietly making its approach. Chokmah, wisdom. The first spark of thought, untamed, unstructured, gloriously unreasonable, the sort of idea that arrives at 3 in the morning with complete confidence that it has solved the universe. Binah, understanding the sober morning that inevitably follows. Binah takes Chokmah's magnificent chaos, puts on its spectacles, and patiently files every extravagant inspiration into orderly chapters and respectable footnotes. Chesed, mercy, boundless generosity. The affectionate aunt who insists on serving you another slice of cake, even after you've explained twice that your stomach is unlikely to survive the experience. Gebura, severity, discipline, boundaries, the unfashionable virtue of self-restraint. Gebura gently removes the cake from Chesed's hands and remarks with impeccable composure, "I do believe we've indulged the poor fellow quite enough." Tiferet, beauty, perfect equilibrium, harmony between strength and compassion. And if we're being perfectly honest, that fleeting moment of satisfaction when the mirror appears unexpectedly inclined to agree with you. Netzach, victory, passion, ambition. The irresistible conviction that you are destined either to conquer the world or, failing that at least, to attract the attention of the remarkable lady seated across the opera house. Hod, glory, or intellect. Reason quietly entering the room after passion has finished its performance. Hod leans towards Netzach and murmurs, "A declaration of love is expensive. A devastatingly elegant letter, on the other hand, costs almost nothing." Yesod, foundation, the unconscious, the private cinema of the soul, where dreams, fantasies, and forgotten desires continue their endless performances long after the audience has gone home. Malkuth, kingdom. And finally, the earth itself, physical reality. That distinctly humbling instant when, returning from your celestial contemplations, you stumble over the carpet and are reminded that gravity, unlike metaphysics, remains stubbornly reliable. And yet there came a moment when this elegant procession of the Sephiroth no longer seemed entirely capable of satisfying the human imagination. The immaculate symmetry of the divine design refused to reconcile itself with the stubborn untidiness of lived experience. Kabbalah, even in its own age, was hardly the most accommodating of companions. Let us be perfectly candid. Spending one's evenings working through thousands of pages of the Zohar demanded a degree of devotion that few medieval merchants, or philosophers for that matter, could reasonably afford. Something had to change. So the great architects of medieval Kabbalah quietly began to reshape the story, introducing ideas that were not only easier to grasp, but infinitely more dramatic. The first to step onto our stage is Moses Cordovero. He sought to preserve order. His universe remained intelligible, sustained by the doctrine of Tzimtzum, the mysterious contraction through which the Absolute withdrew, making room for creation to exist. For Cordovero, the world was still overflowing with divine light. It simply reached us through a veil, but the human soul has always preferred a compelling drama to quiet illumination. And then came Isaac Luria, the Ari. With him, the entire landscape shifted. He introduced the idea of Shevirat ha-Kelim, the shattering of the vessels. The divine light proved so overwhelming, while the lower vessels were so fragile that they could not contain it. They fractured, not gracefully, they shattered. From their fragments emerged the Qliphoth, the shells, and within those shells remained imprisoned the Nitzotzot, sparks of the divine light, waiting in exile beneath the weight of shadow. The universe, in a single breathtaking gesture, had become something resembling a warehouse filled with shattered porcelain. Then came the 17th century, and with it, Nathan of Gaza. He carried the drama to its psychological extreme. Nathan accepted the idea of tikkun, restoration, but interpreted it in a manner so audacious that it still possesses the power to unsettle. If the sparks of divine light lay imprisoned at the very depths of the Qliphoth, then the truly righteous soul could not remain safely above them. It had to descend, to enter the abyss, to risk contamination. Only there could the scattered sparks be gathered and brought home. For the first time, the encounter with one's own shadow acquired an almost sacred legitimacy. Nathan's argument, stripped of its mystical language, was astonishingly simple. If you wish to mend the vase, you must first be willing to cover your hands with glue and dirt. 2 centuries would pass before this Near Eastern meditation, upon shattered vessels, packed its weathered trunks and travelled to another world entirely. The fog, restraint, and impeccable manners of late Victorian London. Welcome to the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Waiting for us there is Samuel Liddell Mathers, a man of remarkable gifts, and even more remarkable eccentricities. Mathers suffered from a condition that Victorian England produced with almost industrial efficiency: the unrecognized genius. A difficult childhood, poverty, no distinguished ancestry. What one might reasonably ask is an English gentleman expected to do under such unfortunate circumstances? Naturally, he acquires Scottish ancestors. With admirable confidence, Mathers quietly attached the sonorous MacGregor to his own name and proceeded to present himself as the descendant of an ancient Highland clan. History, however, possesses a mischievous sense of humour. His most brilliant disciple, and later his most determined enemy, Edward Alexander Crowley, was afflicted by precisely the same romantic illness. Edward too decided that his perfectly respectable English name lacked sufficient grandeur for a magician of destiny, so he became Aleister, purchased Boleskine House overlooking Loch Ness, and began referring to himself as the Laird of Boleskine, wrapping his Edwardian ambitions in a carefully chosen Highland tartan. Two English gentlemen, having draped themselves in rather theatrical Highland tartans to acquire an air of ancestral dignity, proceeded to stage a most remarkable masquerade upon the occult scene. Mathers now turned his attention to charting the hidden reverse of the Tree of Life. And here we arrive at what is perhaps the most fascinating contradiction in his entire philosophy. For beneath all the ceremony, Mathers longed to escape Christianity, its uncompromising monotheism, its formidable demiurge, that austere architect of the Old Testament who had enclosed humanity within an architecture of immutable laws. Seeking a way beyond that theological enclosure, Mathers began, as Crowley so delightfully observed, to play chess against the pagan gods. He repopulated the Qliphoth with the ancient deities of Canaan, Brawl, Astarte, Moloch. And yet, it is precisely here that our self-appointed Scotsman quietly stumbles over his own Victorian inheritance. He admired these forgotten powers, perhaps even envied them, yet he could never quite bring himself to release them from the only vocabulary his age had taught him, so he called them demons. A curious choice of word. In Greek, the daimon was never simply an evil being. It could just as easily signify a guiding spirit, a guardian, the quiet genius of a place. Mathers, however, unconsciously filled that ancient word with something altogether different, the distinctly Victorian fear of infernal darkness. And therein lies the quiet tragedy. He wished to rebel against the demiurge, yet never entirely escaped the grammar of the demiurge's own imagination. He changed the names, he rearranged the hierarchy, yet he still found himself trying to persuade the gods of Canaan to stand politely inside the ritual tables of Victorian England. Naturally, two self-invented Scotsmen could scarcely be expected to coexist peacefully within the same occult order. The rupture between Mathers and Crowley arrived with remarkable speed, considerable noise, and a magnificence bordering upon farce. The affair soon descended into something almost operatic. Determined to seize control of the London Temple, Crowley appeared at its doors dressed in full Highland regalia, masked, with a dagger at his belt, looking rather less like a ceremonial magician than a character who had wandered in from an exceptionally eccentric production of Macbeth. Mathers, for his part, proved no less imaginative. Crowley later insisted that his former master had dispatched an astral vampire to torment him, and had even poisoned his hounds. The magical duel concluded in a fashion that was reassuringly British, not upon the astral plane, but before a judge, where the two magicians proceeded to quarrel quite publicly over the ownership of their occult inheritance. Just before this final separation, however, Crowley accomplished something of lasting importance. He published 777. It remains, in many respects, one of the most extraordinary documents produced by the entire movement. What makes the volume so remarkable is its timing. It belongs to a period when Crowley's mind was still disciplined, lucid, mathematically exact, long before opium and heroin began their slow conquest of his life. 777 is not the work of a mystic intoxicated by visions. It is the work of a remarkable system builder. Crowley gathered Mather's scattered material, removed the sentimental excesses of late Victorian occultism, and transformed it into a structure of astonishing precision. Everything finds its place, every number, every sapphira, every Qliphoth. Each receives a carefully constructed network of correspondences reaching across religions, mythologies, and symbolic traditions. This was Kabbalah reduced, or perhaps elevated, to something approaching the elegance of mathematics, almost, one might say, the architecture of a computer. That remarkable clarity, however, did not last. In time, Crowley founded Thelema, and it is here that his writing begins to lead the reader into regions of the psyche so dense and so deeply overgrown that one occasionally suspects an altered state of consciousness is less an obstacle than a prerequisite. With the Jewish tradition, one always has somewhere to return. One may open the Zohar, the Deuteronomy, or the Mishnah. And however demanding the journey may prove, there remains the reassuring presence of an internal logic patiently holding the entire structure together. The later Crowley offers something altogether different. Much of his writing belongs to a mind exploring consciousness from within altered states. Thelema no longer seeks to construct a system. It offers an experience, a descent, a voyage. It invites the reader into a labyrinth where Mather's carefully arranged gods of Canaan quietly abandon their ritual squares and dissolve into hallucinatory flashes born of the Edwardian occult imagination at the very moment of its greatest crisis. And then, just as the British occult drama reaches its noisiest crescendo, or with Mather's hopelessly entangled among the gods of Canaan and Crowley disappearing ever deeper into the hallucinatory landscapes of Thelema. Another figure quietly enters the stage, Carl Gustav Jung, without fanfare, without ceremony, almost without announcing his arrival. In this story, Jung possesses something profoundly ancient in spirit. He is a man who instinctively knows the proper place of things, who understands what belongs where, and who has little interest in hurling astral lightning merely to impress the audience. The theatrical tempers that animated both Sigmund Freud and Aleister Crowley seem to leave him curiously untouched. He observes the entire Victorian, and later Edwardian, occult spectacle with the gentle smile of someone who has already outlived the argument. After all, why wage war against the demons of the Qliphoth, or exhaust oneself trying to command them, when one might simply invite them into the consulting room and include them in the therapist's hourly fee? Jung advances quietly, almost imperceptibly. Yet he understands something that had largely escaped his British predecessors. The ancient Jewish sages were not merely mystics. They were among humanity's first and perhaps its greatest psychologists. Jung takes the shattered porcelain of Lurianic Kabbalah, gathers together the fragments scattered by Mathers and Crowley, and begins patiently to polish each one. He takes Freud's elegant machinery of the mind, loosens its excessive dependence upon biology, and quietly forges an unexpected alliance between Kabbalistic symbolism and modern psychology. As the most eloquent testament to his profound friendship with the whole of humanity, its light no less than its shadow, Jung created his monumental Red Book, Liber Novus. It was his own descent into the Qliphoth, his own tikkun, his own work of restoration and integration. Yet it is here that Jung performs his greatest act of demystification. The Qliphoth, he tells us, are not horned beings lurking in Kenneth Grant's cellar, nor the ritual figures arranged upon Mather's ceremonial diagrams. They are our shadow. The traumas we buried, the grief we never allowed ourselves to mourn, the desires we learned to silence, and all the forgotten debris of the mind that we hide, with remarkable determination, from ourselves. Jung takes the mystical philosophy of the hidden side of existence and translates it into the universal language of human maturity. He seems almost to say, everything you once called the demons of the Canaanite pantheon is, in truth, nothing more than the unrecognized provinces of your own psyche, and until the unconscious becomes conscious, it will continue to govern your life, while you politely refer to it as fate. At last, the shattered vessels find the place where they have always belonged, not upon an altar, but on the analyst's couch.